Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, guys, let's hit the reset button. We're back. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Geopolitics with Ghosts. I'm your host, Gordon McCormick. The Ghost of Base Patrick Henry. Today is March 3rd, 2026. I just was finishing explaining to everybody what all my super secret sources in the government were telling me why this was happening. I'm not going to repeat that, so you'll just have to live with that forever. But I'm just kidding. Yes, so today we're going to be talking about Iran, obviously, and we're going to be talking about what some of these new developments that I've kind of stumbled onto that I think are really interesting, and why I'm starting to see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, as far as what might actually be happening here. Because I don't know if what we're watching is exactly what it looks like, which is a war against Iran to do a regime change, which may or may not be happening. I've been saying for a long time that I think Khamenei's been dead for a while. He's been on hospice care, whatever. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Doesn't really matter. Pete Hegseth said that this is not a regime change war, even though we have gotten regime change. What's the real purpose of the war? I think that's a question that we should try to our best to understand. And what are the real fallout? What's the real fallout from it? So let's go ahead and listen to this interview with Eric Prince, and we'll take it from there.
Eric, it seems like it's not as intense as the strike that ended the 12-day war, but spectacular results, correct? I mean, they took out the Ayatollah and his top 40 guys, having a picnic lunch in the afternoon or gathering. The intelligence was pretty special in the fact they took the Ayatollah and 40 of his top guys out, sir.
Look, Steve, it's I'm not happy about the whole thing. I don't think this was in America's interest. It's going to uncork a significant can of worms and chaos and destruction in Iran now. Who takes over? You still have tens, hundreds of thousands of IRGC people that will be positioning to be number two, to be the next rulers of that country. I don't see how this is in keeping with the president's MAGA commitment. I'm disappointed.
Well, talk to us about that, because I've been putting up on social media. He said regime change. He made this comment the other night. The Ayatollah's gone. His 40 top guys are gone. Don't you just toss it to the Persians and say, because he keeps saying rise up from the streets. I haven't seen massive demonstrations or massive people coming out in Tehran. There have been some running around shouting they're supporting it, but is the plan to decapitate? Do you think the president's accomplished that and now can just move on?
I think, yeah, and again, who comes after that? I don't know that there's a plan. These are ultimately solved by ground combat. I don't think a regime has ever been changed by air power alone. It's wishful thinking, and now it is indeed cost American lives. I don't buy the argument that it was only because of they were doing it to preempt. When you load that many troops and that many aircraft in the immediate area, you could almost guarantee a response. But again, how does the regime get changed? I don't think that Reza Pahlavi is a strong enough leader to, even though there may be some protest in Iran asking for him to come back, there's an absence of security apparatus to get him done, to get him actually in power.
Tell the audience about Chalabi. He's the Pahlavi bringing the Shahs, the monarchist. Remember, everybody in LA, when he sees people in LA, everybody in London, their parents all left with the Shah. So they're monarchists. The monarchy solution here is as close to ridiculous as you can get. He's like Chalabi, which, as you know, was on Fox News in the run-up to Iraq War. This guy was going to be the Iraq, Congress, National Congress. So he got over there. Nobody ever heard of the guy. And he got swept up in the annals of history, dustbin of history, never be heard from again. The monarchist, a reasonable alternative, and tell people how deep the IRGC goes and how deep the security apparatus with the mullahs goes in Iran.
The IRGC is the most powerful force in the country. They're the ones that made money from all the sanctions. They control the guns and the muscle. not even the Iranian army. So I don't know what the plan is to name some interim leader. I am discouraged, and it will uncork a lot of chaos in the area. And I really wonder, what is the plan if there is not a clear successor person that actually takes power to try to keep some kind of interim government together? It's and subjecting our foreign policy to Israeli foreign policy, I have real issue with that. I said it before. I said it weeks ago in your show. Not that this should not be the path forward, and the president's chosen to do it. I just wonder who pressured him that much to do it this way.
You're one of the president's biggest supporters. You've worked around and with the administration the first time. I've known you now for what, 15, almost 20 years. You are certainly America first, but you've seen all the conflict all over the world. You've been supportive of what the president's done to date, particularly in things like Venezuela, although for hemispheric defense, a lot of people are not even happy with that. Just let's walk through this, because you're an important voice here. Why are you disappointed with what the president's actions have been?
If there is a viable ground force that could seize and hold terrain and control terrain, then I guess air power and a decapitation strike makes more sense to me. But clacking off against the leadership and leaving a real void right now, I'm concerned that it's going to ensue with a lot of chaos, because who knows what other weapons the Iranians have stocked away and they're going to unleash on the region, or what they would do inside the United States now. So it is undoubtedly a bold move. I hope it was the president's decision alone to do this, and that he wasn't arm twisted by supporters or billionaire donors around him to do this.
They're saying now, Axios reports that if there had been a viable diplomatic solution, and the reporting is pretty deep on this, that Kushner and Witkoff did think they were getting tapped along at the end, that the Persians really weren't addressing the issues the Americans needed to address, particularly ballistic missiles and other things about the nuclear program. Do you believe it's a correct response the president's put down? They can't have a nuclear weapon, and I'm not really getting anywhere in negotiations, to go in and take out the leadership? Or do you think there's it's so deep in the Mullah bench, in the IRGC bench, that you're just going to get even worse bad hombres up there?
Why are we so worried about nuclear weapons now if we had all these strikes a few months ago that supposedly eliminated their nuclear program? Again, if regimes get changed by, yes, removing the top management, taking away the inevitability, but then having a viable replacement. I have yet to see any evidence that there's a viable replacement anywhere that can actually seize control of what was a significant empire. 90 million people, intelligent, hardworking, with a lot of tech and a lot of capability, is not an easy endeavor to accomplish. And so the air power alone, I'm concerned, and I'm concerned that this was not our fight, that this is Israel's fight that we got dragged into. And already 3 Americans dead, 5 seriously wounded. That's troubling to me. You said you had to have a substantial ground force to really do regime change here. You're not implying that would have to be an American. You're saying Israel, no.
or some combination of UAE.
Not Israel, or not UAE. Iranians, Iranians from across the ethnic spectrum there, that are willing to take up arms and go against the IRGC and free themselves.
So they have a huge army that's not our IRGC. Now, it may be equivalent to a militia, but you're arguing that to see regime change here, that army or some part of that organized that's not IGRC, or maybe some rebel units from that, are going to have to lead the Persian people against the apparatus?
Yeah, I mean, the natural option here would be the Kurds, the Kurdish, the Iraqi Kurds, supporting the Iranian Kurds. to do it. But this is an extremely bold move. I don't know why it was decided that I had to do it now. I'm shocked, and I'm just wondering what political pressure was brought to bear for the president to make this, because this is certainly not what he campaigned on.
Yeah, real quickly, we got 2 minutes. I know you got to bounce. Because I know the president respects your opinion. If you had a chance to talk to the president today, what would be Eric Prince's recommendations to the commander in chief?
Don't ever contemplate ground troops in Iran.
You think that's even a possibility?
I didn't think this was a possibility today, over the last couple of days, Steve. I didn't really think that was that he was going to do it.
Eric Prince, where can people track you? I know you got a podcast. You've been busy all over the world, particularly in places like Haiti, chasing down bad guys, bad hombres. Where can people follow you?
Okay, so interesting commentary from Eric Prince, considering his proximity to the administration and his background, and he was involved in the Venezuela stuff. He offered in 2018 he offered 5,000 ground troops or 5,000 mercenaries to overthrow the Maduro government, and then he went and met with Delcy Rodriguez in Mexico City in 2019 and came back and said, I think that there's actually another path forward. So again, a lot of people like to get angry when you question what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and say all kinds of things. But I feel like Eric Prince probably has a little bit more perspective, and everything he said, I pretty much was what I was thinking on Saturday when I heard about all this stuff originally. Now, interesting commentary from him on some of those points, because that was from Sunday morning, that interview. Here is from today, or I guess it was published 14 hours ago, by Barack Ravid, Mark Caputo, and Axios. Trump calls Kurdish leaders in Iran war effort. President Trump spoke by phone with the Kurdish leaders in Iraq on Sunday to discuss the U.S.-Israel war with Iran and what might come next. Three sources with the knowledge of the calls told Axios the Kurds have developed a... Sorry. What is happening here? Sorry, the screen is just getting really, really small. The Kurds have developed a... have thousands of soldiers along the Iran-Iraq border with control strategic areas that could be significant as the war develops. Iraq's Kurds have close ties to Iran's Kurdish minority. Trump spoke to leaders from the two main Kurdish factions in Iraq, Masoud Barzani and Bafil Talabani, a day after the Saturday bombing campaign began, two of the sources said. A source with knowledge of the calls said they were sensitive and declined to give details on their content. The calls were the culmination of months of behind-the-scenes lobbying by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Another source said Israel has had close security, military, and intelligence ties with the Kurds in Syria, Iraq, and Iran for decades. It is the general view, and certainly Netanyahu's view, that the Kurds are going to come out of the woodwork, that they're going to rise up, one official said. Netanyahu, who has been relentless in urging strikes on and regime change in Iran, first advocated for the Kurds in a White House meeting with Trump. When he first came over and sat with Trump for hours, you would have thought Netanyahu had it all figured out, the official said. Quote, he had the successor planned out. He had the Kurds all figured out. Two sets of Kurdish groups here and there. This many people are going to rise up, the official added. Asked specifically about Trump's calls with the Kurds, White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt declined to discuss specifics. Quote, President Trump has been in contact with many allies and partners in the region throughout the past several days, she told Axios. On Sunday, the Kurdistan Freedom Party, a Kurdish Iranian opposition group based in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, accused Iran of a punishing campaign of missile and drone strikes. 6 days before the war began, five dissident Kurdish groups sheltering in Iraq announced the formation of the coalition of political forces of Iranian Kurdistan to fight Iran. The Kurds are the largest ethnic minority in Iraq and one of the largest in Iran, and are often described as the largest ethnic group in the world without their own country. Their ancestral lands span from southeastern Turkey, northern Syria, northern Iraq, and northwestern Iran. Kurds govern an autonomous region of northern Iraq that was made possible by the 2003 U.S. invasion that toppled dictator Saddam Hussein. Kurdish fighters called Peshmerga, which means those who face death, have decades of combat experience from fighting in Iraq and against ISIS in Syria. A group of battle-hardened, boots-on-the-ground fighters would add a crucial warfighting dimension to the U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign that began Saturday. In the 2001 Afghanistan war, the U.S. similarly used heavy air support to cover the maneuvers of ethnic minority fighters on the ground to help topple the Taliban regime. Not sure if that's a great example. The Kurds have a hostile relationship with Turkey, a U.S. and NATO ally, which could be a complication. The president is talking to everyone. He's talking to Kurdish leaders. He's talked to Kurdish or to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The source said the announcement last week of the coalition of political forces of Iranian Kurdistan also led to tensions with an exile group led by the former crown prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. While U.S. policymakers believe Netanyahu might have overestimated the number of Kurds who might take up arms against Iran, it's nothing new, the official said. What their role would be in either the war or post-war Iran is above my pay grade, the official said. Okay, so this is relevant because we have some other developments here. I guess like the one that everyone has heard by now is this one from Rubio.
Explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as
So
possible.
we're gonna go ahead and play it for posterity.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible, perhaps to report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those are in pre-position. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay, so that was the clip that kind of triggered the whole internet to say, well, then the U.S. has been led into a war by Israel, and that is kind of what Marco Rubio said, even though that there have been denials of that, but that is ostensibly what he said, is that Israel was going to attack, and if we didn't do something beforehand, we basically jumped ahead to take the reins and take control of the situation before they could. That's effectively what Rubio said. I thought Bannon had a good response to that. Here's a 30-second clip.
If Iran was attacked, then we would be attacked. Does that mean if Israel is going to attack, but that they're supposed to be allies, they're just going to attack and not coordinate with us? And that makes no sense at all. That just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that. This is why they're the greatest ally. I don't understand that. If we knew that Iran was going to be attacked and they would attack us, is there no coordination in this? I think that has to be explained. That has to be explained.
Yeah, he's right. That should be explained. I mean, there's no coordination. Why can't we tell Israel to sit down and shut up? We should be able to tell them to sit down and shut up pretty much at any point, at any time. Because they are the little brother and we're the big brother. That's how the relationship works. And it should never be the other way around, even though quite clearly it is the other way around, more often than not. And by the way, that's not something that began during the Trump administration. That's something that has been the dynamic for the past 80 years. Donald Trump has just basically done us the courtesy of revealing that to everybody. That's what the dynamic is. But the dynamic is Israel tells us what to do. We say yes, sir, and we do it. That's pretty much how it works. Now, that's what presents a really interesting dynamic with this war, because here's what Trump said real quick. Well, before I play what Trump said just now, he's meeting with, or he just was meeting with, he probably still is meeting with them, but the German Prime Minister Merz in the White House. But before I play that, this is from yesterday. Here's Benny Gantz, one of the opposition leaders in Israel, and here's what he said about boots on the ground in Iran and doing a ground invasion. Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm not sharing the right tab.
Do you think eventually there will be a need for boots on the ground?
I would not exclude it for those reasons or other, but we'll have to see how it goes forward.
And will that include Israeli boots on the ground, do you think?
I exclude nothing. We've been waiting for 47 years, and we came to a point that every necessary means should be taken in order to achieve our goals.
What we're seeing from, do you think eventually there will be?
So Benny Gantz saying that we are going to see, he wouldn't rule out boots on the ground. Now, I think he's referring to Israeli boots on the ground, but you know, if Israel's going in, they're gonna be pressuring the U.S. to come in with them. Right now, Trump's talking to the Kurds. Got that? Okay. But here's where what Trump said today is like, let's go ahead and introduce that exhibit into the discussion. Let's see, where did I park that one? Right here. So Trump was asked about that just now, maybe like an hour, what was this, 2 hours ago? He was asked about that comment that Rubio made. Here's what he said.
Did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready. And we've had a very, very powerful impact.
Okay, so stick with me on this, because this is where it gets a little interesting. Because I there might be some signal here, and I always look for signal whenever we're in like these chaotic narratives and nothing seems to make sense, and everyone's really mad at Trump or mad at whatever the situation. I look for the signal, and the signal here seems to be, so Trump started the war, right? Like that's seems to be the universal consensus. It was Trump who moved ahead. Rubio said, well, it was because Israel was about to do it if we didn't do it. And then Trump was asked, Trump said, well, yeah, well, maybe I'm the one who forced them to start to go into war. Maybe I forcibly led them into a war. So if we look at this clip, this is from the same Rubio, like, press conference he gave the other day. Listen to what he says here.
They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have.
So what the context here, so I don't have to play like the full clip for you. He's saying that Iran can produce 100 of these missiles that they're firing around the region. And we can basically, he doesn't really clarify who's making the interceptors, but we can only make 6 or 7 interceptors a month while they can make 100 missiles. So there's a production capability that he is at least asserting Iran has the significant strategic advantage there. Now, it doesn't make a lot of sense in the middle of a war to disclose that publicly. It seems like you're almost encouraging Iran to continue fighting. You're like, hey, Iran, if you just keep firing missiles, we're going to run out of interceptors. And that, by the way, is being reported. Like we're getting reports that missile batteries, defense anti-missile batteries are being brought over from South Korea. Japan's now worried that we're going to pull theirs from them. And maybe some other countries are going to lose theirs, and then we're going to ship them over to the Middle East. Who knows? But it does seem like that's not an oversight and like not a guffaw. Like Rubio saying that seemed very intentional. Like he seemed like he came out there with some prepared notes, right? He's not reading from notes, but it seems like there's some notes in his head that he's reading. One is that we only did this because of Israel. Okay. Now that's been clarified. Trump said, well, maybe I'm the one who forced Israel to fight this. The other is that we can't produce enough interceptors to stop all the missiles. And there are some pretty serious reports about how Tel Aviv is getting pounded right now by these missiles. And I can't help but wonder if the strategy here is actually giving Netanyahu everything he actually wanted, right? And then he's bitten off more than he can chew. And now he's forced, or not now, but eventually he will be forced to go surrender and negotiate to not just Iran. I think this is going to turn into a lot more. I think it's going to turn into the sovereign alliance. I think a lot of these countries are going to end up siding with Iran against Israel because of other things that we're going to look at. But again, like things are not what they seem. I think that's very clear right now. And this is interesting to me because while I was initially of the mindset that Eric Prince was like, why the hell is this happening? This just seems very, very strange. The timing of it, all of it seems very strange. If the net effect of all this is that Netanyahu is forced to cut a deal with the neighbors in the region and basically stop all of his wars and stop all the aggression and stop all the conflict, that is a pretty significant development. That would be a huge development. And the only way I think you're ever going to get them to the table to actually do that is if they get the war that they've always asked for, which is what they're getting right now. They're getting both barrels right now from Iran. And according to Dmitry Medvedev, it's only the beginning. Medvedev says that they actually haven't even unleashed the worst of the worst, that the worst is yet to come. And we'll see that. So let's look at that. So here's Medvedev. Trump regime change wars could start World War III. And this is where, like, I'm wondering, are we going to see the sovereign alliance here kind of emerge? Because I do think that from the deep state standpoint, a big policy objective of this conflict is to destroy the sovereign alliance, to basically delegitimize Vladimir Putin as like the leader of the global South, to break up this alliance, this security architecture of the Middle East that we've seen form between all these different Muslim countries, which traditionally we're not really getting along, and they have ethnic differences and tribal differences and historic problems, but they all kind of got on the same page. Iran was kind of the last piece that they were kind of putting in the puzzle, and now we're seeing that kind of blow up a little bit. No pun intended. So here's Medvedev. Trump regime change wars could start World War III. Any conflict could be the trigger. The former Russian president has warned. U.S. President Donald Trump could set off World War III with his quote-unquote criminal regime change operations. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has warned. In an interview with TASS published on Monday, Medvedev, who now serves as deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, was asked if World War III has already begun. Quote, technically no, but if Trump continues his insane course of criminal regime change, it will undoubtedly begin, and any event could be the trigger. He said. The attack on Iran is part of a broader war by the U.S. and its allies to maintain global dominance, he stated. According to Medvedev, Trump made a grave mistake by assassinating Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, putting all Americans at risk. Following his death, there's no doubt that Iran will triple its efforts to develop nuclear weapons, Medvedev said. Asked whether Iran can withstand the conflict and the deaths of its leaders, he said the cost of rebuilding will be high, but the Islamic Republic will succeed. Quote, it requires a high degree of social consolidation, and the Americans have provided them with this consolidation, he said. Asked if Russia is at risk of being attacked amid negotiations one day, like Iran was, Medvedev replied that there is only one guarantee, and that this will not happen. The U.S. fears Russia and knows the cost of a nuclear conflict. So it's not surprising to hear kind of like the bombastic rhetoric. Medvedev is known for that, especially like in the past few years. He's been the guy in Russia who's been threatening to nuke Paris, threatening to nuke London, DC, all those things during the Ukraine war. When Biden was about to put the attack, remember the ATACMS? Like Biden was going to put the ATACMS in Ukraine. Medvedev said, if you put those long range missiles in Ukraine, the ones that can reach Moscow, we will nuke. Like we'll just take that as like a preemptive, as an excuse to do a preemptive strike on Western European cities. So he's the one who always goes out there and like aggressively says stuff and does things like calls people war criminals, all that kind of stuff. Putin and Lavrov are far more measured, but I think that's the dynamic. Is Putin and Lavrov are measured. They're the measured statesmen. Medvedev is kind of like the wild card who goes out there. He's the crazy cousin who goes out there and scares the shit out of people. I think it's effective. It's an effective kind of 1-2 punch that they have with that. So let's look now at, because this is where the Iranian devolution comes to mind now. I was listening to another clip. I'm hesitant to like play the really long clip, but because I know we've already watched a lot of clips. But again, right now, my thing is taking information. Like my analysis on this is only as strong as the information I'm taking in. And otherwise, I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating. And I mean, I'm speculating, guessing no matter what. But the more information I can take in, the more the picture becomes clear, the more that we can speculate on, with actual substance and chew on something with substance and not just guess and be hopeful or whatever, or doom, depending on your preference of how this of how you view this thing, because there are a lot of people who are dooming about this. And look, I mean, ostensibly on the surface, it's not a great optic. Like I don't like the way this all looks. I'm the one who's been advocating for peace in the Middle East for even back when there was peace in the Middle East in 2023. I was the one saying I think we're going to see a big war. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's make sure that we understand what's happening here. We see this coming. I see this coming. Let's try to anticipate it. Let's try to cut it off. So here is Erdogan. Turkey stands firmly on side of peace as world order is collapsing. President Erdogan said Tuesday that the post-World War II global system is cracking at its foundation and warned that the world is being dragged into a chaotic era where might is right once again shapes global politics. We've now heard everybody say that now. Netanyahu has said it. Trump has said it. Carney said it at the World Economic Forum. Putin has said it. Delcy Rodriguez has said it. Might makes right. That is now the law. The law of the jungle is now international law. And that's always been international law. It's just that now we can stop pretending to follow the fake false decorum international law. It says, might makes right is once again shaping global politics, stressing that Turkey will not remain neutral in crises affecting its region and humanity. Speaking at an iftar with lawmakers at the Turkish parliament, Erdogan cautioned that global instability is deepening and that the international system is being pulled toward an increasingly chaotic phase, underscoring the need for responsible leadership and stronger diplomacy to prevent further turbulence. We are collectively witnessing a global axis shift, he said, adding that the international agreements have become patchworks, international law is being sidelined, and multilateral principles symbolized by the United Nations, are being hollowed out by the very countries that built the system. Quote, the system established after the Second World War is quite literally collapsing, Erdogan said. The world is heating up to a point where the smallest spark could ignite a fire. Global injustice is widening and becoming chronic. As the old order crumbles, no one yet knows what will replace it. Erdogan said recent attacks on Iran have once again exposed the fragility of the global order, adding that the normalization of lawlessness, confrontation, and tension has become one of the most serious risks facing the international community. He emphasized that Turkey has a clear and principled stance. Quote, we are never neutral on matters affecting our region and humanity. We stand on the side of peace and stability, not conflict. We diplomacy, justice, and cooperation. We stand against killing, oppression, banditry, and all acts that violate human dignity. Okay. So Erdogan is clearly positioning himself as kind of a peacemaker here. He's made it very clear that he is not gonna. I haven't seen any rhetoric from him that like he's gonna take up arms against Iran or anything like that. Iran has not attacked Turkey, which is smart because that would trigger Article 5 of NATO. And that kind of puts Erdogan in a unique position among all the Muslim countries of the Middle East, where he doesn't really have to worry, I don't think, about an attack from Iran, because I think Iran is smart enough to know if they attack Turkey, they bring Europe into the fray. And Iran has already warned Germany and the other European countries, if you get involved, we will bomb your countries too. You're close enough, our missiles can reach you, we will bomb you, Germany. So don't even think about it. So that's a good signal that they're probably not going to mess with Turkey for the time being. Now, if Turkey attacks them, that negates, I think, the Article 5 as I understand it. But that hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to happen. So Erdogan's in a unique position to kind of step in here and play referee. I think we might see that happen. But in the meantime, what's happening in the region? So let's look real quick before I go deeper into the analysis on the Gulf Arab states, because that stuff is really interesting. Let's listen to this clip from this morning on Bannon. Another Bannon clip. Bannon had, what's his name on? Right here. Brandon Weishart. And there was some interesting stuff in here. Also, they were talking about some stuff that we've been talking about on the Book of Trump and my various shows, the OODA loop and other things. So let's listen to this.
Brandon Weichert updates. You've had your hand on the pulse here, particularly the logistics chain and weapon systems and actual what you have to deliver, because they are going through, the military under Kane and President Trump is going through a pretty methodical takedown of degradation first and leading to destruction. But some of our best allies, like the Koreans and the Japanese, are noticing, hey, we're putting a call on folks to ship THAADs, Patriots, etc., into the region. And they're sitting there going, well, hang on for a second. The main thing is Captain Fennell says the Chinese Communist Party is right here. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Your thoughts on all of it? First off, what's happening in region, and then let's expand it out.
Well, in region, as you point out, the U.S. military has, with primarily the Israelis, as we're finding out, with U.S. support, we have degraded a lot of capabilities. Obviously, we assassinated many of their leaders. We got the Ayatollah. To me, that's mission accomplished. We can come home, but this thing's continuing. That gets us into the bad. The bad is clearly we are depleting our stockpiles in the CENTCOM AOR a lot faster than even what was originally warned by General Kane last week. Because I was told that.
Let's go to Jack Keane. Jack and Will Kane had that. But if you go back to look at Jack, okay, and he knows the president very well. I mean, quite frankly, he was a guy we offered a very senior job to. He really wanted him more than Mattis to be Secretary of Defense or National Security Advisor, but for I think his wife's illness, he couldn't do it in the first term.
And John, I don't know if you're listening, but that's really interesting to me. That's Keane. We should be looking into Keane. So Keane was very high up, even in the first administration. We should make a note of that.
he's a guy the president really thinks the world of, and he's obviously got a real neocon and been in the region forever. But when you talk about degradation, what Fennell and Kane are talking about is a systematic stripping that he says they can never come back from this, that they'll be essentially militarily fairly sophisticated day, but in the Stone Age when you finish with them. Is that, and that President Trump seems like with raising Kane, they're going up the escalatory ladder to field strip this so they can never rebuild it.
Well, that I think is their plan, and I think we've been effective in some ways. But just to be clear, the objective was regime change. The regime is holding on, and we're finding out now with these missile strikes, they've been able to expand and do even more complex strikes on targets, not just in Israel or against the U.S. in the region, but they're expanding it now to an entirely regional war that's now even roping in the French and the British, as we're finding out. So this really could be a world, quote unquote, world war because of all the powers involved. So to me, we have degraded the regime. Absolutely. We've scored some key victories, like I said, with killing the Ayatollah. But the command and control structure, while it may be degraded, is decentralized and hardened enough where they are still able to not only continue fighting, but we are seeing them expand. Tel Aviv, my understanding.
So there you go. The command and control structure is decentralized and hardened, so they're able to continue to operate and actually even expand their operations because of devolution. They did the devolution thing back in August, right? They devolved the powers to the governors. So now all the governors, I think, have some level of autonomy. And then remember, as part of it, they restructured the entire IRGC. They restructured the intelligence and the security apparatus, pretty much in anticipation that this was going to happen, that they were going to see like their leadership get killed. That was my understanding. And we went through that whole thing in that episode a few weeks, like a month or two ago, when we stumbled onto that. So let's keep going. I wanted to look at the map, but let's keep going.
Was pounded for 8 hours last night. 8 hours they were pounded by increasingly sophisticated and lethal missiles fired by these Iranian units. So to me, we haven't gotten the kill shot in. The Iranians are still fighting, and they're upping the ante every single day. So this is why we are having to pull on those stockpiles now. We're draining CENTCOM's stockpiles, I think, faster than even was anticipated. And now we're pivoting and going to the Asians and saying we need our stuff back. And as I noted to you before we started, the South Korean press is running this quote from a South Korean political leader saying that we feel betrayed by the Americans. And now the Japanese are getting skittish because they're worried after South Korea gives over those systems, it's not going to be enough. And the Americans are going to come knocking at Japan next saying, hey, give us your stuff. So clearly the plan is to drain the CENTCOM AOR and then pivot and pull whatever we can from Indo-PACOM, which, as you know, then leaves a gigantic gaping hole for the Chinese in Taiwan or the South China Sea or the East China Sea to really have some.
So now we're teasing Taiwan. Now it's like, all right, maybe we will see the Taiwan thing happen. Who knows? But that's interesting.
Real victories over us because we don't have the stuff anymore to shoot.
Let me ask you, the pounding of Tel Aviv last night. Also, the first wave to me looked like they were kind of random. I shouldn't say random, but kind of pop shots. The hit on Bahrain and then some of the Gulf Emirates last night looked more systematic. Do you agree than
what I think happened was just like the 12-day war, only it happened in a shorter time frame. So what happened was I think we did a lot of EM interference, and I think we did a lot of suppression of enemy air defenses, and we were in their sort of electromagnetic, OODA loop there, and we really stymied the Iranians again. But they adapted, and this is the whole thing with the Iranians, and you have to give them credit, is they have been preparing for basically 47 years for something like this. So they have had the time to harden and to disaggregate their capabilities enough so they are survivable for round 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're seeing that now. And they've now, I think, adapted to the environment, and they are now getting more operationally complex. And these guys have thousands and thousands of sophisticated long-range missiles buried deep inside missile cities.
So, Brandon, there's...
Okay, so I want him to continue because there's some more good intel that he says in here. But again, it's not just the 47 years of preparation. It's the devolution that they did in August. It's the fact that they devolved the powers, as I understand it. They created the Defense Council, and they did that in reaction to the 12-day war. So it's almost like the 12-day war, like the bombing campaign, Operation Midnight Hammer, which stopped everything. Remember, Trump like put his foot down and said, "We're done. Stop." Netanyahu called the planes back. Almost did Iran a favor there because it gave him time to regroup and it gave him time to do devolution and to kind of like prepare for the next round, right? And then now the next round has begun, started by Trump, ostensibly. And this is just really interesting. It's interesting that it's unfolding this way. Let's keep going.
There's footage out there. People have to be, particularly now, people are being inundated with artificial intelligence,
Yep.
etc. So it takes a while to go through it.
They're talking about it, everything being fake, everything being gay. Like what can you trust online?
It looks like Tel Aviv was pounded overnight, and again today. Is some of that artificial intelligence? Are you confident talking to your sources? Because I've talked to people too, said they are getting pounded, but I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead.
we're talking to some of the same people in some cases too. But I'm not even talking about the videos that I'm seeing on Twitter. I'm talking about people that I know in the region or who are part of the year in the region and have a lot of ties. That is not being reported officially, obviously, because the Israelis won't let that out. But there are people who are living in Tel Aviv who are sharing things that they probably shouldn't be. About what's going on in the streets and whatnot. And it is very brutal. And I don't think Netanyahu even believed it would be this bad, but here we are.
We do know too from the 12-day war. I mean, President Trump. This was one of the reasons for the big move beforehand was the that Tel Aviv was hit and hit very hard in those last couple of days before they brought the 12-day war to an end. Also, explain to people the OODA loop. What is the OODA loop? Why is it so important militarily to get inside that, sir?
Yeah. So what we found in modern warfare, this was a theory it's an acronym created by John Boyd, who was an Air Force general, real visionary. Then he went on and had a long career in business. And he came up with this theory called the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. And for him, he started observing this phenomenon when he was in combat flying jet planes. And I don't remember which war he was in, but he was flying jet planes and he realized warfare happens very quickly today. And you have to be able to observe quickly, orient your plane, decide to attack, and then attack without any hesitation. And you've got to do it faster than the other guy. And so he took that idea and he applied it to thinking and to thinking about leadership and things like that, and systems management and things like that. And he applied it for the military, then he applied it in private sector. But in today's world, speed kills, and you've got to not only be fast with the OODA loop, your own OODA loop, you have to be able to be so fast that you can disrupt the OODA loop of the other guy. And that's what you're seeing in modern warfare today. You're seeing us, we got the Iranians in the first day, we got them very stymied. But the longer the war has gone on, as I warned you on day one, the Iranians are adaptive and they are starting to adapt. Now, ultimately, my hope is that we can break them in the long run. But right now, they're not broken. They're damaged, but they are not broken, and they are starting to adapt and hit back hard.
Brandon, the drafting off that, what Sam said, President Trump has been pretty adamant. Hey, this planning was for 5 weeks. So in the first 24, 48 hours, right, they are going to degrade it somewhat. But he's hit at least the initial plan put forward. They're prepared to stay here 5 weeks. Now, President Trump's always going to leave himself alternatives and be able to do the unpredictable. But do you see that we have the wherewithal to pound at this level for 5 weeks?
No, I think this is one of the worst planned operations I've seen now. I think the president, they may have been telling him, yes, we're planning for a contingency for 5 weeks. But remember, there was a lot of off ramps built into that 5-week plan. Jack Posobiec was on the first day this war started talking about they had sort of these planned pauses. We haven't had any pause yet. We are very much in a very high tempo conflict. And I think that the president and Netanyahu really believed, and I think the president was following Netanyahu's lead on this, that, hey, if you whack Khamenei, the whole regime will fall like a house of cards, because that's what the Israelis think. The Israelis have this assassination mindset. They're crazy about assassinations. And when it works, it works. But when it doesn't, you now have a situation where you've kicked over the hornet's nest and all the hornets are coming after you and your friends. And it turns out you don't have enough stuff to whack them down. And so I think that, I'm hopeful the Americans will adapt like the Iranians have done in the next iteration. But right now, I think this is a very badly planned operation.
Well,
And I think that the president should declare victory now and come home and say, hey, I took care of the problem. It's over. Because if this goes on longer, the Iranians they're an asymmetrical power. They have unconventional capabilities that are global. A Saudi official told me in 2018 that Iran was a paper tiger with steel claws. Those steel claws today, Steve, are extended, and they're slashing hard at our people and our friends in the region. And our friends are getting angry at us because they think we started this thing. Well, we kind of did. So I think this is not well planned.
You heard some last week, some leaks from the Pentagon. It was put down immediately, but that even General Raisin Kane was saying, hey,
Steve, they had to fire Fred Kocher because he had the balls to go out and say, hey, my boss is warning the president and the president's not listening. So Kocher got hosed, and I'm talking to people at the Pentagon saying that was not Kocher acting alone, that Dan Kane asked him to do that for him. So there's a lot of problems from the uniform military side, and they're afraid to say it publicly or to the president. So they're doing this leak thing that Colin Powell used to do during the Iraq War. This is where we are right now. The uniform military leadership is not on board with this. Not as it's going on, not as it's executed, I should say.
If you still have the big wave to come, because we've been, Rubio said this. I think Pete Hegseth has said it. The president's definitely said it, a big wave. If you do have this big wave that comes in the next 24, 48 hours, and you begin to see the uprising of the Persian people, because the one thing we haven't seen is a mass uprising against the regime in the streets. Now, part of that is 30,000 of them or 20,000 of them were killed 4 weeks ago. I'm sure a lot of their leaders of that, but also people took that as an example that, hey, these guys are going to play hardball. Now their backs to the wall. Because I think the regime and regime elements understand it's that the forces arrayed against them, the Americans, the Israelis, now Saudi Arabia, UAE, they want them graveyard dead. So they're kind of backed into a corner. But do you think that part of it is to come in with this massive wave and see if you get the uprising that President Trump has warned over and over again? Hey guys, it's your mission to overthrow these guys at the end. We can't do it and won't do it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to have to bounce after this, but I think that's the hope, and I don't think that it's going to work according to plan. I hope it does, but I don't think it will. But I got to bounce.
Okay, so let's just evaluate some of this stuff, because I think all of this is really interesting, and we should be talking about it. Do y'all remember this? Y'all remember this story? This is from January 18th. I distinctly remember this. This was from the Times of Israel. When he asked Trump not to strike Iran, Netanyahu said Israel not fully ready to defend itself. When he lobbied U.S. President Donald Trump not to strike Iran last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reasoned that Israel is not fully prepared to defend itself against Tehran's retaliation, the Washington Post reports, citing an unnamed source close to the White House. An American official reportedly says a key factor was the absence of significant U.S. military presence in the region. That's been rectified, which Jerusalem relied on to help intercept Iran's ballistic missiles during the 12-day war in June. The report also says Trump top advisors had at one point around Wednesday last week believed a strike was imminent before a text message from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi to Trump's Mideast advisor Steve Witkoff kind of diffused the situation. I think he's referring to them saying that they weren't going to do like the 600 hangings or whatever. Remember that? So this is I just remember this. I remember that Netanyahu said Israel, which is a strange thing for Netanyahu to admit, that Israel's not ready to defend itself. Now, that's probably because there was no aircraft carrier strike groups in the region. There weren't enough military assets in the region, U.S. military assets to defend Israel. There's two things there. Well, one thing really. The big admission there is that Israel can't defend itself. Israel cannot defend itself against Iran. Like it 100% relies on U.S. Military power, right? You then couple this with Benny Gantz's giddiness about let's go invade, like let's go do a ground invasion, right? And real quick, I'll just go back to the map that I've been showing y'all for the past year, over a year now. and that was for David's corridor in Syria, right? One of the things that I think that Netanyahu really wanted out of Syria was control over the south, and specifically this corridor. If I can get this thing to load. Why is this thing? There we go. It's like, what? It's like, where's the rest of my mind map? There it is. All right, here's the map I'm looking for. So this corridor we've talked about so many times, but the speculation I had a year ago was that we were going to see potentially this corridor used as a land bridge, the same way that they were accusing Assad in Iran of using Syria as a land bridge for Iran to get materials, supplies to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Basically, their accusation was that Iran was sending materials across Syria into Lebanon to supply Hezbollah, who's also operating in southern Syria against ISIS to defend Assad. I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to get this corridor down here. I think like Netanyahu wanted this corridor to reach the Euphrates River. And then once you reach the Euphrates River, this whole entire yellow area is Kurdistan. Here's a bigger map of Kurdistan, right? I think we even talked about this on Friday. Once you get into Kurdistan, the Kurds can help you get into Iran. You see that the whole like western border of Iran is Kurdistan. That's where the Kurds are. So, and then now we know that Trump has been reaching out to them, trying to recruit them to maybe get involved on the ground in Iran. Netanyahu has been talking to them about that. I know that there's been a bunch of reports about Erdogan, who has not traditionally gotten along with the Kurds. The Kurds do not like Turkey. They don't like the government of Turkey. That's always been a very contentious relationship between the Turkish government and the Kurds. However, we are allies with both the Turks and the Kurds, so I think we kind of are the stabilizing force in that in that dynamic. But that's what I think is a big part of what the calculus here is. If there's going to be a ground invasion, I mean, they're going to use they're going to use air power, of course, to like an air bridge to get to ferry equipment and troops over there. But I think a land bridge also makes sense. So getting, if the Kurds are going to become the central part of the fighting force, having a land bridge where you can send them supplies on land and not just only rely on air power, that probably makes some sense, right? And being able to reach the Euphrates from Netanyahu's perspective, that makes sense. So we'll see if that actually ends up coming to fruition, but certainly worth bringing back up, given where we are right now. But let's pivot now to the Arabs and the allies that Steve Bannon's guest was referring to. Because as he said they view it as we the Americans started this whole thing. And they're mad. They're probably mad because we have now, look at what the Middle East looks like right now, right? The whole region appears to be sliding into chaos. And we're getting attacks on like Saudi Aramco. That's a big one. And here's that story. Saudi Aramco shuts down the Ras Tanura refinery, its biggest, after Iran drone strike causes blaze. And you know what? I just realized that we probably should do an ad break. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do an ad break and we'll reset. So this is Geopolitics with Ghost. This is the first hour in the books. We'll be back.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, My Pillow mattresses and My Pillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets. Regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
What up, Badlanders? Are you ready to rock something new in 2026? Well, as always, we got you covered with the Rise Badlands Native Collection. Built from the rich tones and rugged terrain of the Dakotas, equal parts beautiful and brutal. Old roots, new vibe. Whether you got gators in your backyard or you have to take a bush plane to the post office, Badlanders are worldwide. Different dirt, same tribe. By the way, your friends at Rise have a deal for you. Show up at GART rocking your native gear. Swing by our booth and get in to win a free Badlands Rise hoodie of your choice. And don't forget, every order throws fuel on the fire of the Made in USA parallel economy. So grab something now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
You know about Van Man taking down big toothpaste and all natural oral care, right? Van Man's tooth powder is loaded with minerals like eggshells and bones, and combined with pulling oils and peppermint aloe mouth rinse, it is truly the ultimate fluoride-free dental hygiene bundle that saves you 25% off the individual prices. And the Van never stops. Introducing Van Man's new Pearl Eye Cream and Sweet Onion Shampoo. Head over to badlandsmedia.tv/vanman to see what's new. That's badlandsmedia.tv/vanman.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
All right. Welcome back to hour 2 of Geopolitics with Ghost. I'm your host, Gordon McCormick. Ghost-based Patrick Henry. This is March. This is Badlands Media. Today is March 3rd, 2026. Welcome back. And before we get going again, I just wanted to share that we are, in a month, going to be, I guess maybe about 5 weeks, we're going to be doing our next Great American Restoration Tour, stop number 11, I believe it is. Yeah, Guard 11. Hard to believe there's already been that many. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. So if you are in the area, please come by. Go grab your ticket from badlandsmedia.tv/events. If you're not going to be in the area, you can certainly still join us through a virtual ticket through the same website, badlandsmedia.tv/events. I think for the next 12 days, there's a special early bird pricing. And then after that, after March 15th, it'll go up to regular pricing, which I believe is $40 a ticket. So again, badlandsmedia.tv/events. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to being in Nashville. All right. So let's now look at, the Arabs and everything that's going on with them. All right. So the Ras Tanura oil refinery, the largest oil refinery in the world, Saudi Aramco, was attacked. The defense ministry says 2 drones intercepted, shrapnel fell, no injuries. Social media video shows flames and smoke billowing from oil facility, one of the world's largest. Saudi Arabia's state oil giant Aramco shut its Ras Tanura refinery after a drone strike caused a blaze. An industry source said on Monday after Tehran launched strikes across the region in response to the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran. Videos posted to social media purporting to show the facility after the attack showed flames and a thick cloud of black smoke billowing into the sky. A Saudi defense ministry spokesman said 2 drones had targeted the refinery, Saudi Arabia's biggest and one of the world's largest, had been intercepted, according to a statement posted by the Saudi press agency on X. Quote, a limited fire resulting from falling shrapnel during the interception operation with no civilian casualties, the spokesman said. A source familiar with the incident told AFP the blaze had already been extinguished. The Ras Tanura complex on the kingdom's Gulf Coast houses one of the Middle East's largest refineries with a capacity of 550,000 barrels per day and serves as a critical export terminal for Saudi crude. It was shut down as a precautionary measure, and the situation is under control, the source said. And there's some videos there. Aramco did not immediately respond to an emailed request for comment. On Sunday, Saudi Arabia intercepted Iranian missiles targeting Riyadh's international airport and the Prince Sultan Air Base, which houses U.S. military personnel. A Gulf source briefed on the matter told AFP. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry said it summoned the Iranian ambassador. Saudi Arabia's heavily fortified energy facilities have been targeted previously, most notably in September 2019, when unprecedented drone and missile attacks on the Abqaiq and Curious plants temporarily knocked out more than half of the kingdom's crude production and roiled global markets. Though the Iran-backed Houthi rebel group in Yemen claimed responsibility, the U.S. blamed Iran for carrying out the attack itself. The latest drone strike added to a wave of attacks on the Gulf, including in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Doha, Manama, and Oman's commercial part of Duqm. The strikes have paralyzed major shipping hubs in the United Arab Emirates and Oman and sent Brent crude futures surging roughly 10% on Monday. Traders were betting the supply of oil from Iran and elsewhere in the Middle East would slow or grind to a halt. Attacks throughout the region, including on 2 vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf, have restricted countries' abilities to export oil to the rest of the world. Prolonged attacks would likely result in higher prices for crude oil and gasoline, according to energy experts. And it just goes on to kind of give some of those estimates, those projections. Yeah, and then I saw this chart. Where is it? This one right here. Nope, not that one. There it is. So according to the Saudi Post, and this is citing Reuters, they are sending. There's a pipeline. I thought this one had the map on it, but it doesn't. But it says Saudi Aramco has informed oil buyers to load their shipments from the Yanbu port on the Red Sea. There's a pipeline that runs straight across Saudi Arabia from where that refinery is that we were just showing, and this Yanbu. And so apparently they're piping it all across Saudi Arabia, and then they're gonna load it up on ships in the Red Sea instead. So they're trying to figure out ways to keep the oil flowing, keep the price of gas relatively low as they can. But that's all notable. Okay, so then we had, I think I shared this on Badlands Daily this morning, but we had the deputy foreign minister for Iran go on CNN and explain that they did not target those refineries. That was not part of their target list.
We have already been in touch with our Saudi brothers, and we have talked about this issue. Iran is not responsible for the attack against the oil installations in Saudi Arabia. We have made it clear. We have officially announced today that was not one of the targets of the Iranian armed forces.
Okay, so is he telling the truth? Who knows? But what is interesting is what's interesting about that is that Iran has had no problem taking responsibility for other attacks. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they've attacked the embassy in Riyadh. They've attacked other targets throughout the region, and they had no problem taking responsibility for those attacks. So it is notable that they're not taking responsibility for that specific attack. Take from that what you will, but that is interesting, right? So then we have this. First, I guess I'll show the video. If I can get the thing to load. All right, this video from Tucker. Tucker put this out, I think, yesterday, claiming that Qatar and Saudi Arabia have arrested Mossad agents who were planning on doing a false flag. We'll watch the video, and then there's an article that goes along with this that we can look at that's now more recently come out.
That was the point. Now, that wasn't a risk from the Israeli standpoint. That was the point. That was the point. They wanted to diminish the Gulf, and in 2 days they have. And I think anyone who likes decency and order and cleanliness is hoping that the Gulf will recover. The Gulf is not a threat to us. We have military bases in these countries. These are some of our closest allies. All of them are closer allies than Israel, by far. They're our friends, but they've been really hurt. And in a place like Dubai, which is basically it's part of a country, it's an emirate within the United Arab Emirates, but it's also a luxury brand, basically. People go to Dubai because it's beautiful and rich and clean, and above all, because it's safe and orderly. It's got the busiest airport in the world. You start seeing video on Instagram of smoke in the Dubai airport, and you're like, I think I'm going to Cabo this year. Oh, sorry, drug cartels. Whatever. Maybe you go to Sedona this year. It really, really hurts these countries. And Israel wanted to hurt these countries. That's the point. Wanted to hurt these countries. Wanted to sow chaos and disorder because they are rivals of Israel. So it's probably hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran. Aren't they on the same side? No, no. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait. And they've succeeded.
Yeah, so that's a far-fetched claim. We can certainly agree on that. But now we do have an article, a corresponding article to go along with this, and we'll see. We'll just look at the article and see if we can make sense of it. This is from the Cradle. Here, let's pull this up. Let's do that. All right, and it is citing Tucker Carlson's video. So he said on March 2nd that Saudi Arabia and Qatar have in recent days detained agents working for Israel's Mossad agency who were planning bombings in the two Gulf states. It gives the quote of what we just listened to. The U.S. journalist remarks come as Iran. He said he added that Tel Aviv was intentionally seeking to sow chaos and disorder in the Gulf countries. The U.S. journalist remarks come as Iran has intensified its retaliatory strikes in response to the brutal war launched against the country days ago. The Islamic Republic's missile and drone attacks against Israel, U.S. military bases across the region, and major energy assets in the Gulf and Iraqi Kurdistan have not stopped. The Strait of Hormuz has also been closed. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet Base, in particular, is among the targets being relentlessly pounded. 6 U.S. soldiers have been killed over the past few days. Energy prices have jumped significantly as a result of the escalation. However, Tehran has claimed that one of the attacks initially attributed to its forces targeting an Aramco facility in Saudi Arabia was actually a false flag. So yeah, we already looked at that. Quote, Iran has announced frankly that it will target all American and Israeli interests, installations, and facilities in the region and has attacked many of them so far, but Aramco facilities have not been among the targets of Iranian attacks so far, a military source told Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency. The attack on Aramco was an Israeli false flag, adding that Israel's goal is to distract the minds of regional countries from its crimes and attacking civilian sites in Iran, the source added. Nearly 800 Iranians have been killed since U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launched the war on February 28th. Over 2,500 more have been injured. Yeah, so that is interesting. Let's see if I can pull this up. There's a few more articles that I want to dig into here. And maybe we'll watch a few more clips if we are inclined to. Okay, so let's look at like incentives. Like what are the objective? Like what are the I don't want to say objectives. We don't know what the hell the objectives are. What are the, I guess, motivations, the incentives, right? Trump wants a relatively short war, like a short conflict, right? 4 to 5 weeks is the time frame he's given, but he said we're actually way ahead of schedule on that. But a 1 month war in the Middle East for the United States to be involved in, relatively speaking, is a pretty short war, considering the Iraq War and everything else, the war on terror. Obviously, I would say obviously, but Israel, I think, wants a much longer war. They want a longer, more protracted war. They've already been at war for years now. So it does make sense to me that they would kick the tires and try to start, incentivize some of the other neighboring countries to pick up the mantle and go to war with Iran. And we are seeing this now. We are seeing the UAE consider starting aggression against Iran. We're seeing Saudi Arabia is considering it. And let's see. I guess RT has some updates. Let's see. Let's open this up. So this says Trump cuts ties with Spain. So that was the other thing that came out of the MERS meeting, is that Trump said that he told Scott Bessent to cut off all relations with Spain. That is very notable because a lot of these, I think I saw Colonel Tanner Watkins point this out on X earlier, but a lot of these Venezuelan officials who were fleeing Venezuela were all going to Spain. Like almost all of them were arrested in Spain. And when Colombian President Gustavo Petro talked about going after the bankers, one of the cities that he named as like one of the big cities where they or big banking cities where they laundered this money is Madrid. I think he said Dubai, Madrid. I'm pretty sure he said London, and he said I think it was Miami, London, Dubai, and Madrid. I think those are the four specific cities he listed off, and the implication was that there are more, but it's just notable that Madrid was one of the cities that he listed, right? And then all these Venezuelan officials who fled the country, fled Venezuela, who were then later arrested, and then they were brought to the United States, or they were brought back to Venezuela and prosecuted. All of them went to Spain. Every single one of them went to Spain. That was like the place to flee to was Spain. Interesting. It says U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to impose a total trade embargo on Spain after Madrid denied the use of 2 joint military bases to U.S. forces attacking Iran. Meanwhile, the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh and consulate in Dubai have both been attacked with drones. And the interesting part about that is I'm not even sure if those two things are connected. I don't even know if the like money laundering Venezuela Colombia like cartel connection has anything to do with Spain's decision to not allow the U.S. to use its the joint military bases to attack Iran. A lot of countries were doing that. A lot of countries were like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, I think the UAE. They were all saying, hey, you can't use our airspace. You can't use like our soil because we don't want to get attacked. Like we don't want to be blamed and we don't want to get attacked like in retaliation. Pretty reasonable request. But the fact that Trump is kind of capitalizing on that to like go after Spain is notable. Like I think that again, it could just be a convenient excuse to go after a target he was already planning on going after. Russia's nuclear energy agency, Rosatom, has warned that contact with Iran's nuclear leadership has been lost and that Israeli strikes are beginning to encroach upon the security perimeter of Iran's key Bushehr nuclear power plant. The U.S. and Israel have renewed and intensified their strikes on Iran. One hit a building in a residential area beside RT's bureau in Tehran. Iran has intensified its attacks, overnight attacks on the U.S. bases and energy hubs across the Gulf, spiking oil and gas prices. I think I read this morning that gas prices in Europe were up like 30%. Now, and that was before I think Qatar said that they were going to be squeezing supply there. So expect those prices probably to go up even more. Drones also hit the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which has in turn issued a warning over the Saudi city of Dhahran near Bahrain, where social unrest in the Shia majority country is also rising. At least one drone also impacted the U.S. consulate in Dubai. The early strikes killed Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, the head of the Iranian Republican Guard, and several other top officials. Hundreds of Iranian civilians have been killed, including more than 100 school children in a single strike on a school building, which Iran has blamed on Israel. The funerals of the children killed in the attack have begun and are being covered below. At least 787 people have been killed by attacks on Iran, with an estimated 12 people have died after strikes in Israel, according to local official sources. 6 U.S. troops lost their lives in retaliatory strikes by Iran. Russia has strongly condemned the U.S., quote, practice of political assassinations and the hunting of leaders of sovereign states. Russian President Vladimir Putin has described the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei as a cynical violation of all norms of human morality and international law. The Kremlin has said Putin is making every effort to facilitate a de-escalation in the Middle East. Yeah, and so maybe if I can, I'll pull up. I do have a few clips. Maybe I'll pull like while I'm playing a clip, I can pull up. I can pull up some stuff that I found with relation to Putin and who he's meeting with, who he's talking to. But here is the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. I read this morning on Badlands Daily. The U.S. Embassy is not in the position. This is a post from them. So the U.S. Embassy is not in a position at this time to evacuate or directly assist Americans in departing Israel. The following is provided for your information as you make your own security plans. The Israeli Ministry of Tourism has begun operating shuttles to the Taba border crossing as of March 2nd. To be added to the passenger list for a shuttle, you must register via the ministry's evacuation form. The U.S. Embassy cannot make any recommendation for or against the Ministry of Tourism's shuttle. If you choose to avail yourself of this option to depart, the U.S. government cannot guarantee your safety. The information is provided as a courtesy to those wishing to leave Israel. Passengers who wish to cross to Jordan may take the shuttle to Eilat, and continue independently by taxi to the Yitzhak Rabin border crossing. Okay, and then there is a video put up by Mike Huckabee. I only played the short version of it this morning, like the 40-second version of it on Badlands Daily. So let's listen to this is the 4-minute version. Let's listen to everything he said. So he put this out 10 hours ago.
Right now, this is Mike Huckabee. Greetings to all U.S. citizens who might be in Israel right now. This is Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador to Israel. And I know that there's a lot of anxiety from a lot of people about wanting to leave the country. Right now, the options are fairly limited. The airport is closed, of course, and we don't know when it will be open or how many flights. What we are recommending to all of our American citizens, including our own embassy staff, is follow the directions of Home Front Command, which are right now to shelter in place and to be close to a shelter at all times. Follow the alerts. If you hear the siren, make sure you take cover. That's the best thing you can do. But we also understand there are people who are here not anticipating that they would be here this long and perhaps needing desperately to get home for work or just to be able to say you've had a great time, but it's time to go home. I would recommend please register for the STEP program through the State Department and the U.S. Embassy. It's very important. This way we can contact you with updated information. There is a link provided here on this particular message, and it will give you exact instructions of how to register for STEP. In addition, the Israeli Ministry of Tourism is providing bus service from several locations, Herzliya, Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Jerusalem, to go to Taba, just across the border in Egypt. And from there, flights could be available from the Taba airport, though they're limited flights, but also ground transportation would be able to be obtained in Taba to go on to Cairo, where the airport is operating normally and efficiently. The only exception, unless you want to go to one of the countries in the Middle East. We continue to advise you to pay attention very closely to all the announcements. It's why we want you to join and register for the STEP program to get the latest and most up-to-date pieces of information. Some have asked us about going to Jordan. It is not something that we are recommending at this time because of some challenges that are being faced there, the sporadic ability of the airport to be open, and of the limited hours of the Allenby crossing to get into Jordan. That's not the same at Taba. They're open 24/7. So even though the drive is longer and the bus ride might be a little more, first of all, you have the provision for the buses coming from the Ministry of Tourism and the Israeli government. And secondly, once you get to Taba, you have a lot more options of going to Cairo, leaving from Taba, or being out of an area that is currently under siege from missiles, drones, and rocket attacks. I hope this is helpful. Most importantly, we're just wanting everybody to take a deep breath, remain calm, and take shelter when that's called for. That's what we do at the U.S. Embassy. Our folks are sheltering at home, just like we're asking you to do. We're working from home, and we hope that all of this will be over soon. But how grateful we are for an amazing country and a great president who has decided that after 47 years of the hostile actions against the United States from Iran, that we are joining together, not just with Israel, but now it appears the rest of the Middle East, in saying enough is enough. Take care, be safe. God bless America, and God bless you.
Now, at the Department of State, our number one priority is the safety and the security of American citizens everywhere in the world. Now, with what's going on in the Middle East with Operation Epic Fury and the cowardly attacks that we're seeing from Iran against Gulf countries, I wanted to take this chance to speak directly to Americans who are in the Middle East about the work we are doing. Task Force, surging personnel and resources necessary to help provide American citizens with up-to-the-minute safety and security. Gov and register week at the following phone number: 1.
Yeah. Thanks, Adrian. Muted, apparently. I don't know why that happened. Anyway, doesn't matter. I didn't say anything. I just was saying that the screen share stopped the screen audio, or the audio share broke, so I had to reshare the screen. But I think Rubio was just explaining that you should just go re-register for their updates. Here is a video that just got posted of an Iranian drone strike on the U.S. consulate in Dubai. So it looks like these are just going to happen, I guess. Okay. And then here is, I went and I asked Grok to go ahead and just compile all the communications, because I have a lot of them saved, but they're all saved as like little JPEGs, and that would take too long to like share each one. But of all the different instances of Putin speaking to all these different people. So you have, from today, you have Putin speaking with MBZ. You have Putin speaking with Trump. You have Putin speaking with Zelensky. That seems a little strange. Okay. Putin and Xi Jinping and Trump speaking. That can't be right. Some of these are definitely not the. Here it is. Putin and Arakchi. I think some of these are Grok's grabbing some of these, and it's just random posts that people are making that it's not an actual confirmation. But Putin and Arakchi, Putin and Orban, Putin and MBS. That was from yesterday. So now we're into Monday. So yesterday you had Putin and MBS, Putin and Bahrain, the King of Bahrain, Putin and MBZ, Putin and the King of and the Emir of Qatar, Tamim. You had Sergei Lavrov speaking with Faisal bin Farhan, the Saudi foreign minister. You had another phone call with Putin and MBS. Another phone call with Putin and all the Gulf leaders. You have Putin speaking with Hamad bin Isa al Khalifa, which is the king of Bahrain. Another one with the king of Bahrain. Putin with another phone call with Putin and Tamim. Another one with Putin and MBZ. I think some of these are duplicates. Yep, it's another one with MBZ, and then MERS with President Trump. speaking on Sunday. I don't know why that one got thrown in there. The point is that he also I also saw that he spoke with who else did he speak with? He was it I think it was Erdogan. So he spoke with Erdogan. I saw over the weekend, and then he's been speaking with Iran consistently. So point is that Putin is like speaking to all these people multiple times a day. Like they are sitting there talking every single time they talk. They put a press statement out saying, "Hey, we just got off the phone, just letting everyone know we got off the phone." So Putin is quarterbacking a lot in terms of like up to the date, up to the minute communication and contact with all these different leaders, and all of them are saying they're trying to de-escalate the situation, bring the temperature down. Now, I saw this. I thought this was really interesting. I took a screenshot of this. So this was the clip we played earlier where Trump says, if anything, I forced Israel's hand. Quote posted by Pete Hegseth where he says, this is 100% correct. Meaning that it wasn't Israel that forced Trump to do this attack. It was Trump that forced Israel to do the attack. And then Ezra Cohen Watnick reposting Pete Hegseth's post. I thought that was definitely notable. But yeah, there's that was definitely notable. We had this clip. I saw this earlier. This was where this is CNN Turkey, like Turkish language CNN reporting on the streets in Tel Aviv. So yeah, I'll read you what this guy's saying because it's like I guess she's speaking Turkish. He says, my cameraman friend Halil Karaman prepared this information for me right away when we looked at it. Now there are many here. It looks like they're looking at a map of like all the missile attacks in Tel Aviv in Israel. It says now there are many here. And now they're being interrupted. So I'll turn the sound back on. They're being interrupted by Israeli police, and they're about to be arrested. Okay. So he says, is that currently receiving? He says, yes, our phone call. Yeah. So he takes his phone. Yeah, and then the feed stops. So as Bannon mentioned earlier, like they are free press is not a thing in Israel. They are very, very. They like to tightly control the information that gets out, especially in the middle of a conflict. So there's that. Trump, I saw, was asked during this MERS meeting. He was asked about Pahlavi. So let's listen to what Trump says about Reza Pahlavi. This is the son of the crown prince, or I guess he is the crown prince now. The son of the Shah.
I guess he is. Some people like him, and we haven't been thinking about too much about that. It would seem to me that somebody from within maybe would be more appropriate. I've said that. He looks like a very nice person, but it would seem to me that somebody that's there, that's currently popular, if there's such a person. But we have people like that. We have people that were more moderate. You know, these were radical lunatics, and you know what they get? They get nothing. All they do is kill people.
So there you go. There will not be Reza Pahlavi will not be the leader of Iran, at least as far as Trump is saying. Then TASS news agency, Russian news agency, is reporting that Iraq is losing $128 million a day due to the suspended oil production. That seems pretty notable. So yeah, I mean, this is having some really serious implications, geopolitical implications. And then there was a video from Lavrov. And that was I guess I can just pull up the RT article, but I was hoping to play the video. All right, so the RT article says Lavrov issues nuclear warning after U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran. Washington's claims that it defends non-proliferation don't hold water. Russia's top diplomat has argued the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran could spur nuclear proliferation. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has warned. Washington and West Jerusalem say they launched their joint assault on Saturday to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, repeating the justification they used in last year's attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. On Tuesdays, Lavrov criticized Steve Witkoff, special envoy, and calling Iran's assistance on its right to uranium enrichment unacceptable. Witkoff told Fox News, "We, of course, responded that the president feels we have the inalienable right to stop you dead in your tracks." Quote, "If this logic is being pushed, I guarantee that powerful forces will arise in Iran seeking exactly what the United States seeks to prevent, to make a nuclear bomb, because people who have nuclear bombs don't get attacked by the U.S., Lavrov said. Iran's right to a peaceful nuclear program, including uranium enrichment, is recognized under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which allows such activity with International Atomic Energy Agency safeguards. In a seemingly, quote, in a seemingly paradoxical twist, the declared noble cause of preventing nuclear proliferation through a war could stimulate the opposite trend," Lavrov said. He added that foreign diplomats who have told him the fate of the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who abandoned his nuclear program only to be overthrown and killed in a 2011 NATO-backed uprising, serves as a powerful argument for nuclearization. Iran maintains that weapons of mass destruction are forbidden under Islam. The late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, assassinated in the opening phase of the current hostilities, issued a spiritual decree against nuclear arms in the 1990s. Tehran denies Israeli claims that it secretly seeks nuclear capability in violation of the fatwa. Yeah, and then I know that Brian mentioned this morning, but France to expand its nuclear arsenal from Macron. No nation should shield itself from a French nuclear. No nation could shield itself from a French nuclear strike, the president has said. France will expand its nuclear arsenal as part of the nation's new nuclear strategy, President Emmanuel Macron has said. He argued that the nation can only ensure its security by being feared. The announcement came during a keynote speech given by Macron on Monday at a military base hosting the country's ballistic missile submarines. He justified the need to review the nuclear posture by the need to adapt to what he described as a new reality, citing Russia's ongoing development of its arsenal and China's efforts to catch up militarily with the U.S. as key threats. The EU and NATO have used the supposed Russian threat to justify a massive military spending hike. Quote, "I've decided to increase the numbers of warheads in our arsenal," Macron announced, adding that, quote, "If we had to use our arsenal, no state, however powerful, could shield itself from it, and no state, however vast, would recover from it." Man, it's that rhetoric sounds a lot like what you would expect out of Iran, doesn't it? He added that Paris will no longer disclose the size of its arsenal to make sure its adversaries are afraid of its potential. France is estimated to have just under 300 nuclear warheads, around 13 times fewer than Russia or the U.S., according to data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Macron also outlined what he called a forward nuclear deterrence strategy that would include circumstantial deployments of nuclear weapons to other European NATO states, including as part of joint exercises. At least 8 countries, the UK, Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Greece, Sweden, and Denmark are interested in hosting French nuclear weapons. He added, Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky stated last month that he would also accept nuclear weapons from France or the UK with pleasure. Earlier, Russia's foreign intelligence services accused Paris and London of planning to smuggle nuclear weapon components and technologies to Ukraine. Russia has stated it poses no threat to any European country. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said last month that Russia will aim its nuclear weapons at countries which host nuclear weapons aimed at Russia. All right. Well, you have that. And, I think that Sergei Lavrov makes a really good point, because one of the things that we saw happen with the whole Gaza war was the more bombs that were dropped, the more people joined Hamas, right? The more their ranks swelled, because people probably had a sense of hopelessness and maybe a sense of loss and grief, like losing their house, losing their family, losing their neighborhood, losing their country as they saw it. And then here we have from Tyler Durden, from Zero Hedge, CIA, from the CIA, Khamenei replacement will likely be more hardlined. And we read through this a little bit during the during Badlands Daily, but this is interesting. And not, by the way, not at all surprising, because even if the person who was in line to replace Khamenei, whoever that is, wasn't like radicalized before, watching all of his friends get killed in assassinations by a foreign power that is then threatening to destroy you yourself, right? Like they're not going to, like Trump is saying, all these crazies need to be thrown out. All of the IRGC and their subordinates and their replacements need to be destroyed. You probably are going to have a much more aggressive posture towards the United States than your predecessor did, right? I mean, that would make sense to me. So yeah, I mean, it's like the law of unintended consequences. I think we have to be aware of that. And then you go back to what Eric Prince was telling Bannon, the first video I played at the beginning of the show. You know, Eric Prince said it's like the bench is like 10,000 deep. So are you really going to be able to take out tens of thousands of IRGC leaders? I don't know. And so here is the article of who this guy is. Iran names interim successor to Khamenei under second day of massive bombs. And his name is Ali Reza Arafi. And I suppose that's his picture right there. Whatever. All right. So that's pretty much all I have. Let's check out the chat, see what people are saying, see what's going on in the crowd. All right, we have a rant here from Mimi Boy. Mimi Boy SX2, $50. Wow, Mimi. I'm sorry, Mimi 2 Boys X2. So I think it's Mimi 2 Boys X2. Do you have 2 boys, Mimi? I'm wondering if that's what you mean by that, by the handle. $20. Thank you so much, Mimi. Ghost, I've come to really trust your assessments. Thank you for keeping us semi-sane. Well, I appreciate your kind words and your generous rant. I, again, don't really know what's going on, so I don't want to misrepresent myself. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm glad that most of my analysis is keeping you semi-sane. Again, like this is something that caught me totally off guard. I told Burning Bright on Sunday night that on the narrative that I was disappointed by the development, but I remain open-minded about what could come of it. So my mind is open to new information and to what we could learn and what could be explained as to what's actually happening, what actually did happen, and why this was necessary. So I can be persuaded. I can be convinced. I'm not trying to be a hardliner, so to speak, right? I'm open, but I do the first principle that I've always forwarded is peace. Is like that's what we're working towards, is the golden age, peace, all of that. And I feel like that's something that you don't bomb your way to peace. I said that during the Gaza war. You don't bomb your way to peace. And I kind of have to like maintain that same mentality. You can't bomb your way to peace. So, but I fully appreciate that there could be a different plan here, a different path. And the idea that maybe that there's a setup happening here. And this may ultimately result in Netanyahu having to negotiate a surrender or negotiate a submission where the warmongering from Israel's perspective is going to stop. That is really interesting to consider. I'm also not fully convinced that the region is going to rise up in war with Iran. Iran has already demonstrated that it can pretty much like fire missiles at will. And while Israel has the Iron Dome, which doesn't really seem like it's doing a lot, like seems like there's a lot of missiles getting through the Iron Dome. These other countries do not have an Iron Dome. Some of them do have THAAD missile batteries, but the THAAD system, as I understand it, is very old and very archaic. And these newer missiles that Iran has developed, that Russia's helped them develop, can get past all that. So I don't think any of these countries are going to be super eager to go to war with Iran, especially if they're kind of left exposed and there's no like interceptors left to stop the response. So anyway, looks like we got quite a few rants. So let's run through some of these. Lee Walden, what's up, Lee? $2. Ahoy, Ghost. Couple of thoughts. Couple thoughts of we are taking our leadership with superior intel. Do we know who's still throwing rocks at us? If so, when will we see the discombobulator? Just a thought. Yeah, I'm curious that myself, Lee. Where is the discombobulator when you need it? I feel like the discombobulator could be a really useful tool. Lee again. MDGA, make the discombobulator great again. Appreciate you, Lee. And yes, agreed. Let's see more discombobulator. All right. Then we have the real JJ 14. Good to see you with some life back in your eyes, Ghost. Just rewatched a segment from Sunday and you were shell shocked. You had yourself 1,000-mile stare. Sunday sure was a tough morning. Yeah, and I was like feeling pretty ill from just like a weekend of the man flu, which I'm still recovering from. So appreciate that. Yeah, it was a long weekend, even before I learned that we were at war. Sleep State looks like they gave a couple bucks in Bitcoin. Appreciate that, Sleep State. Thank you for your service and contribution to the Bitcoin cause. Big Mama T, $50. Wow, Big Mama T, thank you so much. Very, very generous. Love you, darling. Keep up the great work. Love you too, Big Mama T, and I appreciate your generous support. Just want to make sure I'm going to scroll back through real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, and if you have any comments, I'll try to engage with some of the comments here in the chat. CM Fish, check your email for when to dodge a missile. That's some good, solid advice. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to roll through and read some chat, read some comments. Let's see. Skeptical, just trying to help. Most times asking in Google or ChatGPT. Okay, yeah. I think I caught you in the middle of a response to somebody else. Custard One, Ghost. The Ayatollah surname is pronounced Khamenei. Khamenei, is that right? Khamenei. All right. Well, Kansamida. Thank you, sir. Hells Bay, you analyze the game and make takes. Appreciate you, dude. Appreciate you, Hells Bay. Eleanor 2000. I think she's responding to Sylvia in California, but she says, I agree. So much of us have been misled. My sweet daughter-in-law from Lebanon has provided me with some new insights along with what I have learned here. That's great to hear, Eleanor. My best friend growing up, my godfather, my children is from Lebanon, so we're Lebanese. Skeptical. Any chance that the IRGC was already overthrown a long time ago and Soleimani got blown up? I kind of speculated that, or at least, when Soleimani was taken out, that represented a big change in how the IRGC was functioning. I wondered, my big thing is I wonder if what Soleimani was doing. Was he operating on behalf of Mossad? It kind of seems like maybe he was. That may have been why Netanyahu and Israel didn't want to take him out. So Khamenei, is that how you're saying? Khamenei? Okay, I see what you're saying. Khamenei. I see what you're doing there. Got it. Thank you for the clarification. Poison Pawn, President Trump and his administration are at least 5 steps ahead of the cabal. How does he do it? I have no idea. The man is a genius. Yeah, and you're right. Ultimately, Trump is operating with information that we don't have access to. So I fully appreciate that, fully understand that. Yeah, and a lot of the frustration is just not knowing. That's, I think, where a lot of that comes from. So Custard One says it has a silent K. So are you saying Khamenei? Have I been saying this whole time? It's not even Khamenei. It's Khamenei. That is news to me. Breaking news. We need to put a breaking news siren out Although it's like 40 years too late because the guy is now dead. But at least now I know how to say his name. So, all right, guys, let's check. I'm sorry, meant to check the Badlands News Brief. Or I'm not Badlands News Brief. Go to Badlands Media, or I'm sorry, the Badlands Media Substack and subscribe there. If you're listening to this on replay, you can go to badlandsmedia.tv/boost and do a Rumble rant anytime. Let me just make sure we're caught up. The last one was from, looks like Ethel Mary. We read that on Friday for $100. Your knowledge and a way of sharing it are a lifesaver for me. Thank you for this show and all the other shows you appear on. You are very much appreciated. I always have a sense of hope after hearing you explain the whys and wheres. Love your maps. Thank you again for that very generous boost, Ethel Mary. Let me just make sure that these other ones that the search function is picking up have been read. Man, this is a little frozen. Yeah, I think we're all caught up. Sweet, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Y'all, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And we will see you tomorrow on Breaking History, Matt. And yeah, look forward to having this conversation with Matt. So we'll see you tomorrow at noon Eastern time, Breaking History. Until then, y'all have a great night, and we will see you then.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.